How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in his seminal work, Being and Nothingness, published in 1943, Sartre introduces the idea that lies at the heart of his entire existential philosophy. It's the idea that there's a fundamental split within reality, or that, put another way, being is not whole. Among other descriptions, he refers to this as a fissure of being. And to state it very generally, it's a split that marks the difference between the solid, indifferent existence of objects and the agitated, self-conscious existence of human beings. And for Sartre, this split, or this ontological rupture, it's absolutely crucial because it's the source of our freedom and our anguish, and ultimately our human condition. Okay, but let's narrow in a bit to some of the details. So to understand this fissure, we have to begin with a distinction that Sartre makes between two kinds of being, namely what he calls being in itself and what he calls being for itself. So being in itself, well, that refers to the mode of existence of things or objects in the world. It refers to existence that's full and complete and without any lack at all. Now, if you haven't heard this stuff before, that sort of description is probably unclear. So let me give an example. So take a rock. A rock is simply a rock, right? It's what it is. It's solid and it's inert. Sartre calls this mode of being, the mode of being a rock, opaque. And what he means is that it's just fully itself and nothing more than that. In other words, it doesn't reach beyond itself or aim at anything at all. It just is. It has no consciousness, no internal life, and no possibility to question what it is. Okay, now being for itself, well, that's totally different. Basically, being for itself is the mode of existence of conscious beings. In short, us humans. Unlike the rock, we are aware of ourselves. We can reflect on our actions. We can imagine other ways of being and even deny or reject the identities that we have. That is, we don't have a fixed definition. In other words, a person is not simply what they are. They're not finished projects. No, they're always in the process of becoming something else, what they are not. This is why Sartre emphasizes that the being for itself is defined by negation. It is what it is not. That is the nothingness. So this is the heart of the fissure. At the heart of it is that consciousness is not an object like a rock or a cabbage. And it's not a full substance or some completed being. No, it's a whole or a lack. It's a non-being that opens up inside of being itself. What Sartre often describes consciousness as is as a kind of annihilation, a force that negates or rips through the solidity of the world. And basically, what all of this is, this tearing through the solidity of the world, is the power to say no or to resist. It's to imagine possibilities or alternatives. In other words, for Sartre, this gap or this fissure or split is what makes freedom possible. Okay, but here's the thing. It also makes human life profoundly anxiety-producing and unstable. I mean, his famous and seemingly paradoxical claim that we are condemned to be free, that comes directly from this gap or this fissure. So what does it mean? Well, as I said, because we're not fixed or determined by any sort of essence, because we are not simply what we are, like a cabbage is, that means that we have to take responsibility for choosing who we become and how things are going to turn out for us. Which is really to say that we have no blueprint. We have no God-given essence to turn to. We have no inner self waiting to be revealed once and for all. And again, that's because we're not like objects with fixed and final essences. No, we're open and we're forever incomplete. And that openness is both a gift and a great burden or source of anxiety. Okay, but let me delve a bit deeper into this anxiety part, because it's something that Sartre spends a lot of time on. So the reason that we humans experience existential anxiety is because, unlike objects or animals, we're aware of the fact that we're not fully grounded in or reducible to any one identity. Or to put this another way, we can't actually ever be fully at home in ourselves because we're always more or less than what we appear to be. Now, that not ever being able to feel fully at home, that's the source of anxiety. Now, it's important to understand that this anxiety, it's not some psychological defect. No, rather, it's something that's innate to all human beings. It's something like a structural condition of human existence. What it is, basically, is the price of freedom. We're anxious because we're not complete and whole, because we're fractured or split beings, torn between what we are and what we are not yet. Now, this fissure or split, it also explains Sartre's famous concept of bad faith, by which he basically means a kind of self-deception. So when does this self-deception or bad faith happen? Well, it happens when we try in various ways to flee from the anxiety-producing freedom at the core of our being. When we try to close or do away with the fissure at our core, so to speak. Now, one of Sartre's famous examples here has to do with a waiter. So what he does is he talks about a waiter who convinces himself that he's only a waiter, that that's his essence. That role completely defines him. You know, he talks like a waiter and he acts like a waiter, and he pretty much does this all of the time. Okay, well, Sartre says that this sort of person is living in bad faith. That's to say, he's lying to himself. He's pretending to be a determined and solid object, a being in itself, when in fact what he really is a conscious being, a being for itself. And for that reason, he's somebody capable of change and renewal. The point is that when we practice bad faith like this, what we're doing really is we're trying to seal the fissure. We're trying to patch over the crack in being with something stable, but ultimately illusory. But here's the thing, Sartre is emphatic in saying that this is impossible. The split is intractable. It simply runs too deep. We can't enjoy the anxiety-free life of a cabbage or a rock. We're free, whether we like it or not. You might say then that Sartre's philosophy is something like an all-out confrontation with the split or fissure at the core of human existence. For him, as uncomfortable as it is, it's just a fact that we're not at one with the world or at one with ourselves. We're beings that are divided, and so we're constantly haunted by the nothingness that makes us free. And yet, here's the important thing. Sartre doesn't view this as deflating or as tragic. No, it's the opposite for him. For him, this fissure, it's what gives human life its motivation and its meaning and its dignity. After all, think about it. If Sartre's view is right here, then we're not totally bound by destiny, or by biology, or by social roles. In other words, we're able to always rebel or say no, and we're able to create and to transcend ourselves and our situations. Or at the very least, we're always able to adopt a different attitude or perspective with respect to what life hands us. Now that can't be anything but encouraging, right? Okay. Now it's important to understand that this sort of view stands in direct contrast to more traditional metaphysical ones which postulate some sort of enduring and comforting essence, and so ones which tend towards the goals of unity and closure. Again, Sartre, being anti-essentialist, offers us no such comfort. Instead, he counsels us to face and to accept the void within ourselves, and so to acknowledge that we are not what we are, and that we are what we are not. When we truly come to internalize this, then this is when we will start to become the authors of our own existence. At the end of the day, this fissure of being that I started out talking about is not some flaw to be corrected. No, it's the very condition of our freedom. So here's the really strange thing. On the one hand, it's a very unsettling truth that to be human is to be split and to be forever unable to be made whole. Yet, on the other hand, it's precisely this very unsettling truth that makes us human and so gives us the power to never stop reaching beyond what is. Bye for now.